Adam was a 23-year-old university student with a mind full of dreams and a wallet full of nothing. His life was a constant balancing act between lectures, part-time work, and survival. Every evening, he would rush from class to his small rented room, a single bed, a flickering bulb, and walls that whispered loneliness. He worked late nights at a cafe near the city's elite district, serving people who didn't even glance at him. He often wondered if fate had forgotten him. His parents had died in a car accident when he was 16, leaving him with no family and no inheritance, just a stubborn desire to build a better life. Every penny he earned went toward rent and tuition. On most nights, his dinner was a cup of black coffee and day-old bread. One evening, while delivering coffee to a private charity event, Adam's life quietly shifted. The room was filled with well-dressed men and women, millionaires, socialites, people who lived in a world far above his reach. As he carried a tray toward the front, a gentle voice stopped him. "Thank you, young man," said Margaret Dawson, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes and a calm grace that commanded respect. She was 71, the widow of a business tycoon, known for her wealth and philanthropy. Yet there was something different about her, a loneliness in her eyes that mirrored his own. Over the next few months, Margaret began visiting the cafe. She always sat at the same corner table, reading or writing in her journal. She asked Adam about his studies, his goals, his life story. Sometimes she brought him books, other times just warm conversation. Slowly, their unlikely friendship grew into a bond neither of them expected. One quiet afternoon, after they had spoken about life and dreams, Margaret looked at him for a long time and said softly, "Adam, I know this might sound strange, but would you marry me? Not for love, but for companionship. I have everything, yet I have no one. You'll never have to worry about money again." Adam froze. He thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Her eyes were steady, sincere. Words spread quickly, and the world mocked him. Friends laughed, strangers sneered. "She's old enough to be your grandmother," they said. But Adam was tired of hunger, tired of struggling alone. After days of sleepless nights, he made a decision that would change his life forever. Within a week in a small courthouse, Adam married Margaret Dawson, the woman who would soon reveal the secret that would shake his soul. The first night Adam stepped into Margaret Dawson's mansion, he felt like he had walked into another universe. The grand marble staircase glistened under crystal chandeliers, and the air carried the faint scent of roses and old money. Servants moved quietly through the halls, bowing slightly whenever they passed him. Yet despite the luxury around him, Adam felt completely out of place, a stranger in someone else's story. Every corner of the house seemed to whisper secrets of a life he didn't belong to. Gold-framed portraits of the Dawson family hung on the walls, elegant men in suits, women in pearls, and among them, one painting in particular caught his attention, a young man with Margaret's features but eyes hauntingly familiar to Adam. He dismissed the thought quickly, assuming it was just his imagination. The servants respected Margaret deeply, but when Adam entered the room, their eyes changed. Whispers followed him wherever he went. "Gold digger. She must have lost her mind. He's just after her money." Even at the dinner table when guests visited, he could feel their silent judgment. He tried to ignore it, but it dug deep into his pride. Margaret, however, treated him with nothing but kindness. She never asked him to fulfill any traditional role of a husband. "You don't owe me affection, Adam," she told him one evening. "All I ask is that you live without worry for once." She gave him access to her library, arranged for him to finish his degree without financial pressure, and even set up a small office for him beside hers. She often spent hours in her private study, surrounded by old photographs and letters. The door to that room always stayed locked, and whenever Adam asked about it, she would smile and say, "Some memories are too heavy to share." Still, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something was being hidden from him. The generosity, the sudden marriage, the sadness in her eyes, it all felt too strange. Why would a powerful, respected woman choose a poor boy from nowhere? On the 7th night after the wedding, sleeplessness got the better of him. The house was silent, lit only by moonlight slipping through tall windows. He wandered down the hallway, drawn toward the faint glow coming from under the door of Margaret's private study. His hand trembled as he turned the handle, and to his surprise, it was unlocked. Inside, a stack of old letters, dusty albums, and an open safe caught his eye. As he stepped closer, one photograph on the desk made his blood run cold. The air in Margaret's study was heavy with silence and the faint scent of lavender. Moonlight poured through the tall windows, casting pale silver stripes across the shelves filled with old books and antique ornaments. Adam's footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor as he stepped closer to the large portrait that hung behind the desk. The same portrait he'd noticed earlier. Something about it felt off. He hesitated, then carefully lifted the frame. Behind it was a small metallic door, a hidden safe, its surface covered with a thin layer of dust. To his surprise, it wasn't locked. The door was already slightly ajar, as if waiting for him. Inside lay a neat stack of documents, aged letters tied with ribbon, and a single framed photograph. His hand trembled as he picked it up. The image showed a young Margaret standing beside a tall man who looked exactly like him. The same eyes, the same sharp jawline. It was as if he was staring at his own reflection through time. Confused and frightened, Adam unfolded one of the old letters. The paper had yellowed, the ink fading but still readable. The date at the top read May 12, 1975. The letter began tenderly, addressed to my dearest Margaret. "I can't wait to hold our baby in my arms," the letter read. "He will have your smile in my eyes, our little Edward Jr., our future." But as Adam continued reading through the stack, his heartbeat grew louder in his ears. Another letter written months later told a darker story. A hospital fire, chaos, the baby missing. No remains were ever found. Margaret and her husband, Edward Dawson, had lost their only child that night. Adam sank into the chair, the letters falling from his hands. His mind raced. The resemblance, her strange proposal, her tears when she thought he wasn't looking. Could it be? He picked up a medical file among the papers. The name Adam Collins was printed on it. His name. A DNA report was stapled inside. His eyes widened as he read the results. A 99.8% maternal match. Margaret Dawson. Tears welled in his eyes. He wasn't just her husband. He was the lost child she'd been searching for all her life. Margaret had known from the start. The way she looked at him, the affection, the restraint. It all made sense now. The marriage had been a quiet cover, a final chance for a mother to be near her son without revealing the unbearable truth. As the realization sank in, Adam dropped to his knees, the photograph still clutched in his shaking hands, whispering, "Oh God, Mom!" The sound of soft footsteps broke the heavy silence. Adam turned sharply, tears still fresh on his face, the photograph trembling in his hand. Margaret stood in the doorway, dressed in her pale silk robe, her silver hair glimmering under the moonlight. Her eyes, warm yet tired, held no surprise, only a quiet sadness. "I knew you'd find it," she said softly, her voice trembling with both relief and pain. "I never wanted you to learn like this." Adam's throat tightened. "You knew?" he whispered. "You knew I was your son all this time?" Margaret nodded slowly, stepping closer. "The day I met you at that cafe, I saw Edward's eyes in yours. I had a DNA test done soon after. When I got the results, I couldn't tell you. I thought you'd hate me or run away. I didn't want to lose you again." Tears blurred Adam's vision. His heart felt heavy yet strangely light at the same time. He moved toward her, his voice breaking. "You didn't have to hide it from me." Margaret reached out and cupped his face gently, her hands trembling. "I just wanted to feel like a mother again," she whispered. "Even if it meant pretending you were my husband for a few days. I wanted to take care of you, not as a wife does, but as a mother should have." Adam broke down, collapsing into her arms. She held him tightly, as if trying to make up for all the lost years in that single embrace. He could feel her heartbeat, slow, fragile, fading. For the first time, he called her what he'd never known he could. "Mom," he sobbed. Margaret smiled through her tears, resting her head against his shoulder. "That's all I wanted to hear," she whispered. In the days that followed, their bond deepened quietly. They shared meals, laughter, old stories, and silence filled with peace. Margaret seemed happier, lighter, as if a burden she'd carried for decades had finally been lifted. One morning, Adam knocked on her door with breakfast, but there was no answer. He entered gently, finding her lying peacefully on the bed, a faint smile still on her lips. On the nightstand rested a note in her delicate handwriting. "My dear son, thank you for coming home." Margaret left everything to Adam. The mansion, the companies, the charity foundation. Yet none of it mattered to him. What mattered was the truth, that she hadn't married him for companionship or pity. She had simply wanted to hold her lost child again before she left this world. And in the end, she had finally brought her son home.